Good morning, possibly good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. I know a number of folks are still joining or just logging in, so maybe we'll give it just a few more moments, and we'll start. But welcome to the Contentstack Automation Hub short presentation and demo. Well, since this is being recorded, actually, I'll probably just get started, and everyone can jump in as they can. And again, you'll get a copy of this recording, so you'll be able to review the initial part of it should you join later. So my name is Doug Mitchell. I'm a senior account executive on the enterprise side of the business at Contentstack, and I'm joined with Christine Masters, who you probably can't see quite yet, but she is here, and she's our senior product manager for emerging products at Contentstack. Today, we're going to talk about Contentstack Automation Hub. I do know from looking at the list of potential attendees that there's a combination of both existing customers and potential new customers. So welcome to all. Some of you might know about Content Automation Hub and are using it in some capacity. Some haven't used it yet, and some may not know about it. So we'll kind of start with just a couple slides to set things up as to what we have in place here with Contentstack Automation Hub, and then we'll pass it over to Christine, and she can kind of take us through some more use cases in a demo fashion. So without further ado, I'm going to move my screen up in case that's blocking anything. So Automation Hub is a no-code or low-code way to automate activities within the Contentstack platform. So we have our DXP platform is our holistic platform. We have our headless CMS, and within that headless CMS, and by extension, the DXP, we have the ability to automate with a module within Contentstack itself. So traditionally, automations have either been done by back-end coding by development teams, or sometimes not at all, because it takes coding by back-end development teams. So authors rejoice. There's a way here where some of this mundane work or difficult work or tedious work or repetitive work can be automated. And I think there's a tremendous amount of both cost savings, time savings to approach some of these routines in an automated fashion. So we basically use the tools within the Automation Hub to automate actions that will go faster, that eliminates costs and middleware, and improves basically your overall operations. So what is an automation itself? It's really a trigger and then multiple actions that happen after that trigger, right? So triggers can be many different types of things. They can be internal processes or workflows within your systems or within the Contentstack system, or they can be external, actually, within your internal systems to trigger something within the Contentstack system, or they can be third parties as well. But it all begins with the trigger, and then multiple actions happen after that particular trigger. As I said, I think there's a tremendous amount of cost savings, and we'll go into more in the demo, but I think some of the thumbnail ways that we see Automation Hub being used would be, well, all of these. I mean, communication comes to mind. I've seen numerous companies use it for localization. So they'll basically send out content to be localized instead of waiting and refreshing to see when that content is coming back. Basically, you can set up an automation so that when that content comes back from translation, there's a notification to Slack or a notification to email that, hey, that content's ready to go to the next step in a workflow. It can be as simple as adding, a weather app. Now, for certain industries or maybe utilities, yeah, a weather app would be a fantastic addition to a core website. But this, I guess I'll point out that this can be used for both business side, author side. It could also be used on the dev side as well for builds and triggers within the dev side. I guess I was talking to Christine yesterday or the day before, and we were kind of thinking about an author's life, editor, writer, and you know, if we're using a spreadsheet to move things around, that's probably going to be a decent contender for a use case within Automation Hub. So a lot of things that you don't like doing over and over, we can help you with Automation Hub. And we also have added personalization capabilities in Gen AI, which I think Christine is going to cover as well. So there's a basic overview of kind of what Contentstack Automation Hub is. And so what I think I'll do is pass it to Christine. We'll get into more details within the demo, and I'll put you in the hands of the Senior Product Manager for Automation Hub.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, that was a great overview. Let me share my screen. Yeah.
Oh, I should say I was going to say real quick, if you have questions along the way, go ahead and please add those to the chat. I'll be monitoring that as Christine goes through the demo, and happy to answer all of your questions.
Right. Yeah, as Doug was saying, one of the things I always look at is spreadsheets. If you're putting a bunch of stuff into a spreadsheet, it can probably be automated. If you're cutting and pasting from one app into another, it can probably be automated. So a lot of those types of things that can be a great kind of trigger to make you start thinking about, is there a way that we can streamline this? So yeah, so let me get into it here really quickly. As Doug was saying, you know, Automation Hub is a great visual tool to help you streamline your workflows. You can do things like fast track vendor integrations. We support a lot of enterprise content vendors, and you know, some of these integrations that used to take 4 months or a couple of weeks, even in the composable age with APIs and so forth, actually can take you a couple of days, a couple of weeks to actually put these things together. And so something with Automation Hub, you're simply just clicking on a couple of buttons. If you're using one of the pre-made connectors that we already have, instead of taking 4 months or 4 weeks, it can take 4 minutes. So it's a really, really effective way to get started kind of in this composable space. We also can do things like, as Doug said, automate repetitive tasks, even if it's not within an integration. If it's something that's happening inside of Contentstack, we can help with that. And as he also mentioned, we have really in the last year, obviously with so much changes and things going on in the AI world, have built a lot of integrations with AI. And it's a great way to create chained AI instructions, to create automated AI agents that can perform specific tasks, all those kind of things you can do by just creating these steps of these chains of actions that happen based on a trigger. So it's really exciting. Let's look at a really quick example of that. Here is my demo site, and this is my Stacks interface that I have. Automation Hub is over here on the left-hand side. Everybody should have access to this, even if you're in a free trial or if you have not yet purchased Automation Hub, you're able to click on that. This will bring you into your projects dashboard. And each of these projects is essentially a collection of automations, which all share the same user groups. So you can kind of restrict who is allowed to use or who is allowed to interact with the different automations within that folder. You can imagine having a folder for maybe some experimentation, and then another folder for your development team, and then another folder for production, and only a few people actually have access to production because you don't want people to mess with that folder. So you can restrict the users and who has access to it based on that. And also projects will all share the same connected app authorizations. A connected app is basically an OAuth authorization or a token authorization for a specific external system like Slack or like ChatGPT. And once you set that up within one of those projects, you can continue to reuse that same app authorization in multiple connections. So it's a great way to very quickly create automations, which I'll show you in a second here. So now, again, note that if you don't have any projects here, you can create one. Everybody actually has access to at least 200 executions per month. An execution is the number is a time that an automation ran, regardless of the number of steps it has. So you can do a lot with 200 executions. You could have a report that runs once a day and, you know, looks at some files and maybe runs some AI algorithm on it and then sends it to Slack, and all of that would count as one execution. And again, you could be doing that on a daily basis, and that still is within your Explorer package that everybody gets. So let's jump into one of my projects here. And you'll see on the left-hand side, we have your execution log that shows whether or not the latest executions have succeeded or failed, and then you can kind of use that for troubleshooting. We have an audit log that shows the recent changes that anyone on staff has made inside of this project. We have project variables, which is actually a new feature that we've added recently. And this essentially allows you to store either just variables, obviously, which could be like an email address or a phone number or something like that, that you want to be able to change up more frequently. Or you can use this to store encrypted API keys. And this is a kind of a best practice for security, so that your API keys are both encrypted and stored separately from your automation. And that way, people don't have you know, as easy access to them that way. And then we also have a list of our connected apps. As I said before, connected apps can be shared in a project and reused. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new automation. You can type in your title. I actually typed that with no typos, which is amazing. And so now we get into the automation screen, and on the left-hand side, you'll always have a step-by-step outline of all of the steps within your automation. And on the right, we're working on a specific step, and it has kind of a breakdown of different, like a kind of a wizard that helps guide you through creating that particular step. So the first thing you start off with always, as Doug said, is configuring your trigger. The trigger is the thing that starts the automation. So you can imagine a trigger happening when a new content is published, or when some HTTP webhook fires, or when your launch has been redeployed or something like that. So all of those types of things can serve as a trigger. In this case, I'm going to use a Contentstack trigger. I'm going to say an asset trigger. I'm gonna do a something that actually just came out today, which I will show you, that brand new functionality that literally just came out within the last couple of hours. Is really cool. This capability within ChatGPT to do image analysis. And kind of what I'll show you in my demo is uploading an image, asking ChatGPT to do an analysis of it, and then I probably will maybe do something to show you what that analysis looks like. And then, you know, you can imagine after that, maybe you want to update that image and, you know, change the descriptions. It has an alt tag that has now a nice summary to it, maybe for accessibility purposes. Or you could use that to create keyword tags if you want to index it and be able to search for it more easily in the future. You can send it to Slack and let people know the kind of image that was just created. All of that kind of thing we can do with this. So in this case, this is my my authentication into Contentstack, and I'm going to choose the Christine New authentication, so I'm sure that one works. And then for my trigger, I have all these different types of things that can happen with assets, and then all of these could form the trigger for my automation. In this case, I'll just say created, and then I get to choose the stack that I want to kind of manage. We also have a bunch of additional things that are sometimes under this optional fields toggle. In this case, it's just environment, so I could choose a specific environment. But a lot of times there's some additional fields under there that are not really required for our APIs, but are something that might help out. But in this case, I don't need those, so I'm just going to proceed. Now I can do a test. In this case, I have just uploaded an image to the asset folder on my stack, so I have that payload automatically available here. But in many cases, even if you haven't done an action recently, because it's the same CMS and it knows about your content models and it knows about Contentstack, it's actually able to create like a demo payload for you. So you can kind of see what that looks like. And then that will prevent you from having to, go delete an asset in order to trigger the delete asset functionality or things like that. So it's a really nice feature. So now I can save and exit. And if I wanted to create a trigger condition, that's essentially like adding in some additional variables to further focus the types of assets that will, or the types of events, I guess, that will trigger this automation to run. So for example, you could say, I want to create a trigger condition that will only fire if this particular author has written this entry, for example. So that will only happen when that author is on the event. And so that way, obviously, it can really limit the number of executions that are firing, which actually helps you, keep down on the number of executions that are running. So now I'm going to go into my action step. So that was configuring my trigger. Now I'm going to go to the action step. And the first thing that we see here is really great is that you have a couple different choices for the types of interactions you can do. You can set up just a simple step, which is actually what I'm going to do. But before we go there, you also can do a conditional logic. So you can say, if this particular thing happens, then do this, otherwise do this. So you can actually create that. Again, with no code, you're able to actually just create essentially a coding logic. Or we also have the concept of a repeat path. So if you have some kind of an action that's going to happen over and over again on a grouping of assets or a grouping of content, or maybe even a grouping of strings or logic or something like that, you're actually able to create a repeat path on top of a grouping of objects and run an automation on them over and over again for that grouping of objects. So, you can think of something like translating fields. Translating fields can happen and you can loop through all of the different fields and run a translation on each of them as part of your automation. So a lot of power there. And again, those things can all be set up without any actual code. So
Hey,
in
Christine,
this step though, yeah.
real quick before you continue, just a short question. Would this image analysis example only work for Contentstack sourced assets, or would it be an option for Cloudinary integration users in the future?
That is a great question. So technically, the way that ChatGPT works, which I'll show you in a second here, is that you just send it the image URL, and then it does an analysis of that image and sends it back to you. So so the two kind of situations could happen there. First off, if you're uploading it to Contentstack first and then you're syncing with Cloudinary, you could actually run ChatGPT Vision on it when it's uploaded into Contentstack like this. Or you could have a trigger from Cloudinary happen. So like, let's say you're uploading your assets to Cloudinary, I'm sure that they have a webhook for asset creation or asset upload. Then you could trigger an automation to happen, which then analyzes that image, creates that text. You could actually take that text and sync it back to Cloudinary to add that to like the description of that asset in that service. I haven't specifically done that. So, buyer beware slightly there, but from a technical perspective, Cloudinary is great with APIs and so forth. So I'm sure that there's something that you'd be able to set up there to use that. Awesome. So yeah, so we can see here that we have a bunch of different connectors. Again, we've really focused on enterprise content related connectors that help you get started with many of these different services. We add connectors almost every, like maybe one or two, almost every release, and we do monthly releases. So our connector library is growing very quickly. Please reach out to us if you have any specific requests for connectors that you would like to see. We always love to hear more requests from our customers about that. But in this case, we want to try to look at the ChatGPT connector. I will also point out very quickly, some people may or may not be allowed to use ChatGPT because of maybe software procurement issues or legal issues. I do want to point out that we also have in the generative AI space, we have Azure ChatGPT. So that might be, you know, if you are able to, if you're already working with Microsoft, that might be an easier way for you to start doing some AI automations. And we also have Amazon Bedrock. Amazon Bedrock is a relatively new service, and they actually have a lot of different LLMs that they provide as a service. A couple of them, they have the Meta open source LLM. They also have Anthropic Claude, which is probably the best competitor right now anyway to ChatGPT. So you have a couple of different options. In this case, I'm going to use the ChatGPT. These are some different options that I have. These are basically different APIs or different use cases that you can do with ChatGPT. I'm going to choose the Vision one. I'm going to choose the Vision Preview. This is still in a preview phase with ChatGPT, but you could use it in limited production. Now, if you're familiar with how you create prompts with ChatGPT, there's a couple of different types of prompts that you can send to that. In this case, I'm going to say, just to create the system prompt. Now I'm going to add another prompt text, and this is where I'm creating the user text. In this case, I'm just going to copy and paste this really quick. So I'm going to choose some text, and then I'm going to add in there, act as an image expert and write a short single paragraph summary of this image. And I kind of specified short because so that you don't have to wait for a long time as we look at this, because of the fact that it does take a little bit of time to do that. And let's see. Oh, and I forgot to upload the image. Let me do that really quickly. So now I have the text. Now I'm going to add another prompt with the image there. And then I'm going to say, in this case, I'm going to go into my, so now I'm actually looking at the payloads from my previous steps, and I can actually go in and search the payload and find the URL of the asset that was just uploaded to my system. So now that I've added that, now the AI should be able to actually read that image. And again, it takes a couple of seconds, because if you've had experience kind of using ChatGPT, you know, as it's generating text, it's, you know, kind of writing the things out and analyzing the image and then writing the text. If I were to let it write something longer, if I asked for a detailed analysis, it will write like 2 pages worth of information about an image. It's actually quite incredible. I'm so impressed with their image analysis. And you know, we've been able to do computer vision stuff for a while, but the ChatGPT Vision version is really amazing. And so you can kind of look here where it's describing this image that I uploaded, which is of a kind of a woman robot android artificial, like AI generated image that I created. And so it describes it with glowing eyes, and it describes that she's got a clipboard in her hand, and so forth, which are all very accurate, you know, descriptions of this image. I really love also that it actually says something about it has cosmic imagery enhancing the theme of merging between the technological and the ethereal. I mean, that's just like so insightful, I think. So you can imagine one thing that you could do as a next step is you could add this as the description on this image, and then do another step of syncing it to Cloudinary, right? You could take this and put it into a, you know, as part of an entry that contains this asset, and maybe it becomes part of a description or something like that. And then you send that to Algolia to index it. There's so many things that you could do with this. But that's essentially that, you know, that first step. I'll just very quickly, just to show kind of a multi-step automation, I'll just show maybe Slack. Let's say I already have my Slack authorized. Then I can find a channel on here. This will allow it to search my channels. We have like a ton of channels, so it takes a second here to search through them. I'll just do automations test. And then again, in here, I'm bringing up the payloads from my previous steps. And now the response from ChatGPT is one of the payloads that I can grab. and I can open this up. I can find the content, which is the description of the image that ChatGPT provided, and I can add that to my Slack message, and then I can set a test of it. I'm not going to show you my Slack, but that has now posted to my automations test Slack. So you can see this is very, very easy to set up. You can send it to, your email. You can, do all this stuff. So a couple of just really quick things about the ChatGPT and the AI integrations. We talk a lot about generative AI and being able to create descriptions of things and blog posts and whatever. But I want to challenge you a little bit to think about non-standard implications of this, and thinking about using AI as a logic engine inside of an automation is super, super interesting. And you can, for example, get your publish log for today. We have a publish log API, and it's a tool in Automation Hub that you can have access to, and then send that to ChatGPT, ask it to write a report of everything that's happened on my site in the last week, and then send that to my team in an email, or post it to my Slack channel, post it to my Microsoft Teams channel. And that's something that you can ask it, everybody's supposed to submit by 5 o'clock at night. Did everybody meet their deadline? Did everybody translate their content into German? All of these are types of things that you could be asking it as a logic engine, and then creating kind of these business intelligence reports out of it. So there's so many things like that we can't even think of right now that might really help you have insight into your processes, or again, analyze a spreadsheet or something like that, and help you with your job on a day-to-day basis, and just help you save time. So that's what we're really interested in doing. But I think that's the main overview that I was going to do. So I don't know if you guys have any other questions, or if there's any examples of ideas of things that you can think of doing with Automation Hub and AI.
I don't see any questions. Anyone have any sort of final questions for this session? I think we just have 2 more minutes remaining in this particular webinar.
I will send a quick idea that we have a couple of different AI tools at Contentstack. AI Assistant is another one that allows you to, it's basically a tool that you can use to interact with AI as you're writing an entry, right, inside of the entry form. And a couple of our customers recently have done AI hackathons, where they challenged their staff to come up with use cases using Automation Hub and AI Assistant to look for ways that they can streamline their processes or improve their processes. And then, you have like some judges look at it, and then the winner gets $500 or something like that. And those types of things, like the couple of the customers that have done something like that, they are shocked of the number of use cases that their staff can come up with, and even do a proof of concept a lot of these things. I just think it's a really great idea. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you need any more ideas around that. I can supply a couple of slides, that you can reuse if you'd want. And anyway, I think it's a really great idea, and just something to get you started with AI stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you everyone for joining. There may be a quick question. Is it possible to edit text within an entry based on a trigger?
Text within an entry based on a trigger. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but yes, you can. So essentially what you would do is there'd be an entry trigger. So maybe when the entry was either created or published or something like that, then you could modify the text so that, let's say you took your entry and you sent the body copy to ChatGPT, and you asked it to write a summary. So then ChatGPT would have a summary from your entry that just triggered that event. Then you could do a step inside of like one of the steps in the automation to update that entry. And then you could write that text from ChatGPT back into the entry. And that's how you could do like an automation summary or something like that. So if you wanted to have it that every time you created a new entry, you sent the body copy of the entry to ChatGPT, and then it created keywords or it created a summary field. Then you updated that entry with the summary field. Maybe you put it into a workflow stage of review because you want someone to look at it really quickly. And then that just automated your kind of SEO workflow.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I know we kind of hit generative AI pretty heavily today. It's a more complex use case. We got lots of blocking and tackling, time savings. Reach out to us if you'd like a specific use case covered for you. But thank you everyone for joining. I hope you're as excited about Automation Hub as we are, and hope to talk to you all sometime soon. Reach out to us with any further questions. Have a wonderful day. Thanks everyone.